All right, I think I'm going to throw one last thing at you, and yes, it is quite complicated, but you don't need to, but this would be super nice to know once you go on and kind of customize the game, your own game to your own specific likings. So I'm going to take the risk of explaining this concept, which is very complicated, I feel, but some of you will be able to make really good use of this, I hope. Nevertheless. So my game is spawning enemies, right? And these enemies are bees. And my bees have their own script. It's in the script I've got my bee setting, or my speed set to 2. And my bees have their own script, but I've also got this enemy spawner that is actually spawning the prefabs. So it would be very nice if I could change the bees as the game progresses. And I could change them in a multitude of ways. But let's just keep it simple. I want my bees to go faster the longer my game goes on. Now, the problem with this setup that we have right now is that my enemy spawner game object, it's spawning bees, and then the bee is moving. The bee is just gone. It's spawned into the game, and the bee is just gone. Like, we have no way to talk to this bee. I know we can detect collisions with it, but I can't actually get into the bee script. I can't focus on this particular bee that just spawned and talk to it. I can't talk to the script the way that it's set up right now. And I want to change that. I want to be able to talk to this bee, as it spawns. I don't want to lose access to this bee. So that explanation in itself sounds quite complicated when I replay it in my head, but maybe the code will help me illustrate my point. All right, so let's refresh ourselves. Here's my B prefab, and here's the script. The script is simple. It's just moving my B, and it's moving it by a certain speed. And the speed is set in my inspector in Unity. And apparently, my speed is 2. I would like to change the speed. I would like bees to spawn with a speed of 3 as the game progresses, maybe with a speed of 4. Go on and so forth. So we're going to use a little bit of strategy from last video to do this. All right, one step at a time. This is the script that's attached to the bee. I would like to look at the script that spawns the bees, that spawns the prefabs. This is this script. I've got nothing in here that talks about speed because the speed has been universal. It's stayed on the prefab and it hasn't changed. But I would like to change that. I would like to be able to decide what the speed is when I spawn a new bee. So I'm going to say public float speed. And I can just leave it empty for now because the speed is going to be changing. However, maybe I'll just put it to 2. Actually, better idea. Leave it blank, save it, and we'll set it in the inspector. My prefab has a speed of 2, so my enemy spawner, I'm going to keep it as 2. It's the same. I basically just taken the speed variable and put it in my spawner script. Cool. So why am I doing that? Well, I'm doing that because when I spawn, when I instantiate this bee, I want to change the speed of the bee. And I would like to just completely clear the slate here so that we can just see the code that we need. I was instantiating these prefabs and I had no way to talk to the prefab. I was creating the prefab and I was sending it on its way. Gone, see ya. I don't need anything to do with you, bye. However, when I instantiate this bee now, I might want to still talk to it. So I'm going to take the exact same line of code and I'm going to set it equal to this game object. And I'll call this B reference. This should be a capital G. So what I've done here is instead of just creating a B in my game world and forgetting about it, I'm also I'm now creating this B like I was before, but I'm also creating a reference such that I can talk to that B I just spawned. Okay. So how do I talk to the B that I just spawned? Well, I use this thing, this reference that I just created. I called it B reference. And now I'm talking to the prefab that I just spawned. Through that line of code, I'm literally talking to this game object. And this game object has all these components, right? It has a transform component, it has a box collider, it has a B script component. So if I want to talk to the B script component of the prefab I just spawned, I'm going to use this lovely get components method. And we're using a pair of math less than or equal to in brackets. And this is what I put, this is the name of the component I'm interested in. Well, it's called B script. So I'm going to type in B script. It should turn green for me. And then I'm going to put a pair of braces or parentheses, sorry. And now I can talk to this script that's on this specific prefab. So anything in here I can talk to. And that includes the speed. Speed is public, so I should be fine. So I'm going to go dot speed equals. I have to talk about this keyword. For clarification, let's call this new speed. I don't want to talk about this. So the speed in the prefab is going to be equal to new speed. Whew. That is some heavy coding right there. Now let me just regather my thoughts. Put new speed to 2. So whatever new speed is, in this case it's 2, when I create that prefab, I'm saying, hey, Mr. B with the script on it right here, yeah, your speed is 2. Or your speed is whatever the new speed is. Now, this brings up an interesting point, not completely related. This if statement that's changing the position of my B's, or where they spawn. Because I can talk to the B I just spawned, or I just created, I don't need to instantiate anymore. I don't need to have 3 separate creations. I'm creating one B, and if the spawn position happens to be 1, well, I'm going to change the position of the B I just spawned, the prefab. And remember, this B has all of these components. If I'm talking about position, I'm talking about the transform component. So I can say transform.position equals spawn position 1. If it's the second spawn position, I'll change the position. If it's the third, I'll set it to spawn position 3. So I don't need to have 3 separate creations of the B. I can just create one B and change its position based on the previous logic here when we were generating a random spawn position. Okay, we're not done here because I wanted to change the speed. That's the whole reason I'm doing this. Right now, speed is 2 and it's never changing. So this is completely waste of time unless I actually change the speed. Well, luckily for you, we learned how to do this in the last video. I just have to ask myself, when do I want to change the new speed? Well, if we go back into our trusty dusty collision handler script, I was keeping track of the score. So to keep my life very simple and this video relatively short, when my score goes up, maybe I'm interested in checking if the score has reached a certain threshold. So maybe I'll say if score is greater than 3. just for testing purposes. I would like to change the new speed of the bee. Well, how do I talk to this script from this script? Well, we did that the other video. I need to make a reference to the enemy spawner script. So I'm going to do the exact same setup that I did under this code. I'll call it enemy spawner script. And now I can talk to any of these variables in this script. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go enemy spawner script dot. These are all the things I can change. Look at that, new speed. I could say the new speed is going to be equal to 3 now. So you've got chain reaction of changing variables. This is a loaded video, but my gosh, this is Unity. This is some good Unity stuff going on. So if the score is bigger than 3, the new speed is equal to 3. What is the new speed? Well, the new speed is in this script. And I put new speed in this script because when I spawn one of these prefabs, I would like to set the speed of this particular prefab. And that's it. I mean, it's not that it. Like, we didn't add many lines of code, but like, it's hard to wrap your brain around that kind of delegation and that chain reaction. And the only thing I have to do is make sure everything's linked up properly. So enemy spawner starts with a speed of 2. Perfect. But my collision handler script on my player has a new field. It has an enemy spawner script. Well, where's that? Well, that's on my enemy spawner game object. So I'm going to put it there. All right, let's test this out. So when my score goes over 3, I should see a speed increase. So there goes a B. Kind of count that for reference. Here's a score of 2. Here's a score of 3. Okay, one more bamboo and the bees should get noticeably quicker. I don't want to hit the bee though. Give me another bamboo. Boom. Okay, now let's look. Can pause. Click on the bee. And let's see. Look, it's got a speed of 3. Ain't that something? So now all the bees spawn with that new speed. Craziness. That is, I mean, you can add so much to your game if you understand that, but that's a big concept to understand. So I had to throw it in there, but I think that's some crazy programming. Good stuff, though.